The inn is warm, but the night outside is colder than it should be. The fire crackles, shadows leap along oak beams, and the window pane rattles as a lane winds into the mist beyond. Boots rest by the hearth, a tankard left half drunk on the table. Tonight, here at Ancient Britain Myths, we invite you to sit back, draw close to the fire, and listen. For there are stories whispered along the forgotten roads of our land. Stories of laughter, tragedy, betrayal, and lingering footsteps. Stories that never quite fade. Britain's country lanes are older than the maps that chart them. Many were carved before the Romans, worn into the earth by countless feet, hooves, and wheels. They are arteries of memory, carrying echoes of the lives and deaths of those who passed before. A wedding procession might have wound its way down one lane, soldiers may have marched down another, never to return. Alongside such memory comes superstition, and along superstition comes fear. Folklore tells us these lanes are not just tracks between villages. They are thresholds where the veil is thin. Over centuries, travellers spoke of strange companions, the vanishing hitchhiker who disappears from the seat beside you, the phantom carriage whose thunder shakes the earth before fading to silence, monks gliding like shadows with incense on the wind, and women without faces who stand at the bends of roads waiting. These tales are not inventions for amusement. They are rooted in oral tradition, in police reports, in centuries-old chronicles, and in the memory of local people who swear the roads are cursed. So tonight, as the fire burns low and the wind pushes against the windows, let us walk those roads together. And remember, though we may sit in comfort, the roads themselves never forget. The vanishing hitchhiker of Bluebell Hill, Kent. The road that winds up Bluebell Hill near Maidstone looks ordinary by day. It is a place where trees meet overhead and the sun flickers across tarmac. But when night falls, the atmosphere changes. Drivers speak of dread settling in their chest, as if the air itself thickens. It was here in 1965 that a tragic crash claimed the lives of 3 young women returning from a hen party. What followed became one of Britain's most famous ghost stories. Motorists began to speak of a young woman in white. Sometimes she waves, sometimes she simply stands in the middle of the road. Drivers stop. She climbs into the car, quiet and pale, sometimes giving an address nearby. But when they reach the destination, she is gone. Others report even more chilling encounters. A driver swerves to avoid hitting her, only to discover no one is there. A bus passenger once described seeing her sitting in the seat opposite, vanishing as the bus rolled downhill. Police received dozens of calls through the 1960s and 70s. Some dismissed them as hysteria. Others, especially those who drove that road late at night, did not. Bluebell Hill has since become a symbol of the vanishing hitchhiker legend. To this day, flowers are sometimes laid at the roadside, and locals warn, if you see a woman in white asking for a lift on Bluebell Hill, drive on. The phantom carriage of Surrey. Surrey's lanes, bordered by chalk hills and ancient yews, carry their own ghostly echoes. Near Box Hill and Epsom Downs, people speak of a carriage that thunders through the night. The story is always the same. First comes the sound, a clatter of hooves, iron shod, echoing off the hillsides. Then the grind of wheels against gravel, growing louder and closer. Witnesses turn, expecting to see horses charging down the lane. And they do. A full team, pulling a carriage with lanterns swinging, faces pale in the moonlight. But then, as suddenly as it arrives, the scene fades. The horses vanish mid-gallop, the wheels dissolve into silence, and the road is empty once more. Some say this ghostly coach belongs to the 18th century, when a runaway team overturned and killed its passengers. Others link it to smuggling, contraband carried at night with the driver's curse to ride forever. What chills those who hear it is the realism of the sound. Even in summer, with trees in full bloom and skylarks still singing at dusk, the thunder of ghostly hooves is enough to still the heart, and locals whisper that if you hear the carriage behind you, you must not look back. The monks of Dunwich and Suffolk's lost abbey roads. East Anglia has always been a land of shifting sands and lost towns, but few places feel as haunted as Dunwich. Once a thriving medieval port with churches, monasteries and markets, much of it now lies beneath the sea. The waves took the town, swallowing its streets one by one, yet according to countless accounts, not everything has been lost. Some say its holy men still walk. Along lonely Suffolk lanes, particularly those leading inland from Dunwich's ruined abbey, drivers and walkers report the same vision, a procession of monks gliding in silence, their cowled faces hidden in shadow. They carry no torches, yet their outlines glow faintly in the mist. One witness in the 1970s described hearing the soft toll of bells in the night, though no church was near. Another spoke of the smell of incense drifting across the road, clinging to the air long after the figures had gone. For others, it was a momentary glimpse. A line of dark-robed men crossing the road ahead, their sandals making no sound, before they vanished into the hedgerows. Scholars suggest these apparitions are tied to the old processional routes between monasteries. Before the Reformation, monks would walk these roads daily, chanting psalms as they moved between abbeys and churches. The land remembers them, and the roads seem to replay their journeys endlessly long after their voices have fallen silent. What chills most witnesses is not the sight of the monks, but their manner. They do not acknowledge the living. They walk with solemn purpose, their heads bowed, their hands clasped. To watch them pass is to feel like an intruder in a ritual from another world. And the most unsettling detail of all, sometimes it is not a group, but a single monk, standing still at the roadside as if waiting. Those who have seen him speak of a terrible weight in his presence, as though he knows you are there, but chooses not to turn his hooded face toward you. Dunwich may have been lost to the sea, but on Suffolk's lonely roads, the monks remain, silent, watchful, eternal. The ghostly woman of Denbighshire's Lanes, Wales. In the hills of North Wales, where roads wind tightly through hedgerows and stone walls, there is a story whispered of a woman with no face. She appears without warning, most often on misty nights when the sheep lie uneasy on the hillsides and shepherds walk the lanes alone. Drivers describe her as standing at the edge of the road, dressed in pale clothes, her figure faint but unmistakable. At first, she looks like a woman seeking help. But when headlights catch her face, there is nothing there, no eyes, no mouth, just a smooth, blank canvas, pale as bone. Generations of locals have carried this story, warning travellers to avoid certain bends after dark. Some say she beckons, lifting a hand as if to call for aid. Others say she steps into the road itself, forcing cars to swerve, only to vanish when struck. One shepherd in the 19th century claimed she followed him home after market. He heard her steps behind him, soft against the gravel. Each time he turned, she was there, just out of reach, her faceless form shimmering in the night. By the time he reached his cottage, his lantern had blown out, and he swore he could feel her standing just beyond the door. He died within the year, and neighbours whispered it was her curse. The road where she appears has been called unlucky. Accidents are strangely frequent, animals shy from it, and some walkers say they feel her presence even on summer days when the sky is bright and the hedgerows alive with birdsong. There is no clear origin to her tale, no record of a death, no saintly legend to explain her. She simply is, passed from mouth to mouth, story to story, as though she has always been there. And perhaps that is the most chilling thought. Not all ghosts come from one tragedy. Some belong to the road itself. The Highland Wraith Road, Scotland. In the Scottish Highlands, the land itself carries memory like nowhere else. Here, battlefields lie quiet under heather, where whole clans were cut down. Here, betrayals echo in the glens. And here, on lonely roads, travellers meet those who never left. One such place is Glen Coe, a valley marked forever by massacre. In February 1692, soldiers turned on the clan who had offered them hospitality, slaughtering them in their beds. The blood of that treachery seeped into the stones, and the glen has never been free of sorrow. Travellers today speak of a wraith by the roadside. Tall, cloaked and silent, he appears as drivers round a bend. Sometimes he raises an arm, as if to halt them. At other times he simply stands, watching. What follows is almost always the same. The air grows icy. Engines stutter, headlights flicker, and when the driver looks again, the man is gone. Those who have seen him describe an overwhelming feeling of being judged, as though he is measuring them against some old betrayal. Some swear they have heard the faint skirl of bagpipes in the distance, though no player is there. Others claim to have seen the shadow of gallows on the hillside, though the ground is bare. Not all agree he is a man of Glencoe. Some believe the Wraith belongs further north, to Caithness, where an execution ground once stood by a roadside gallows. Drivers there also speak of a figure who watches, never moving, never speaking. Whether tied to massacre or execution, the Wraith Road of Scotland is dreaded even in daylight. On summer evenings, when the sun lingers on the hills and the glen seems at peace, travellers still lower their voices as they pass, for they know peace is only at the surface. Beneath lies blood, betrayal, and a watcher who never rests, the lantern man of the Fens. The fenlands of East Anglia are strange country, flat, endless, a patchwork of drains and dikes where land and water meet. By day, they seem empty. By night, they are alive with whispers. Here, for centuries, travellers have spoken of the lantern man, a glowing light that drifts ahead of you on the road, bobbing just out of reach. At first, it seems like a guide, a lantern carried by another walker. But follow it, and you will be led astray. Those who chase the light are lured into bog and mire, into ditches deep with black water. Some escape, soaked and terrified, others do not return. The lantern man is said to laugh. A mocking chuckle carried on the wind. Witnesses describe his light-changing colour from pale yellow to a sickly green, before vanishing altogether. In some tales he appears as a cloaked figure holding the lantern aloft. In others there is no body at all. Just the light, moving with purpose, like a will-o'-the-wisp with malice. What makes the story truly chilling is its persistence. Folklorists have collected accounts from the 18th century, the 19th, and even into the present day. Farmers, cyclists and late-night drivers all report the same thing, a light that should not be there, always leading them from the road. Some say it is the spirit of a drowned soul, condemned to wander the marshes forever. Others believe it is older, a fragment of the land's own magic, a cruel trick of the bogs themselves. But whatever the truth, the fenlands remain a place where lights move, where no lantern-bearer should walk. And if you see one on a lonely road, do not follow. Psychological versus paranormal. Some theories. Why is it that country lanes so often bear the weight of ghost stories? Why not the cities or the towns or the open fields? The answer may lie in what these roads represent. Boundaries, thresholds, places between the familiar and the unknown. Folklorists call them liminal spaces, crossroads, bridges, holloways. For centuries the British people have seen such places as dangerous, charged with power. At crossroads, bodies of suicides were buried. At bridges, spirits were said to lurk. A road, winding through hedgerows with no houses in sight, belongs to no one. It feels like another world. Psychologists suggest our minds play tricks in such settings. When driving late at night, tired eyes invent figures in the fog. When walking home alone, the crunch of our own footsteps echoes back like someone following. The brain fills silence with whispers, shadows with shapes. And yet, the reports are consistent. From Kent to the Highlands, from the Fens to the hills of Wales, travellers describe the same visions: a woman in white, a ghostly carriage, a silent monk, a light that leads astray. It is as though the land itself remembers, replaying fragments of tragedy, loss or ritual to anyone who passes. Some claim these ghosts are residual hauntings, not spirits with intent, but imprints, recordings of past events replayed endlessly. Others insist they are intelligent, aware of the living, interacting in subtle ways. A hand lifted, a lantern swaying, a faceless head turning slowly toward you. And of course, roads are where life and death most often meet. From medieval cart accidents to modern car crashes, they are soaked in sudden endings. Perhaps it is no wonder the dead are said to linger there, unwilling or unable to move on. Whether psychological or paranormal, one truth remains. The lanes of Britain hold our attention because they feel alive, and when the hedgerows press close, the fog thickens and silence falls. Perhaps they really are. Personal accounts and modern encounters. The stories are not only old, they are not relics of folklore alone. Even now, in the age of headlights, motorways and dashcams, the ghosts of Britain's country lanes are seen. In Kent, a driver in 2014 swore a woman stepped into the road on Bluebell Hill. He braked hard, but when he left the car there was no one there. Police searched the lane. Nothing was found. His car bore the dent of impact, but no trace of blood, no fabric, no body. In Suffolk, a cyclist riding near the ruins of a monastery described a line of hooded monks walking ahead of him. He called out, "No reply." They vanished into the mist. When he stopped at the pub later that night, the locals only nodded. "You've seen them, then?" On a Highland road, a lorry driver pulled over, shaking, to report a tall man who had stood in the bend of the lane, unmoving, forcing him to stop. When he climbed down to check, the man was gone, but his mirrors still showed the faint shadow of a figure standing by the truck. And in the Fens, a family followed what they thought was another car's tail light through thick fog. The light bobbed ahead, never close enough to catch. It led them off the road, into reeds and marshland. Only when their tyres stuck fast did they realise there had been no car, only the lantern man leading them astray. These accounts surface again and again, passed in whispers on forums, recorded in folklore collections, told in pubs over pints. The places may differ. The details may shift. But the core remains. On Britain's lonely roads, something walks with us, and for every witness who speaks out, how many stay silent, afraid of ridicule? How many drive on, shaken, never telling what they saw at the roadside? The lanes keep their secrets well, but sometimes, late at night, they share them. The fire has burned low. Outside, the wind rattles the inn's window panes. Our stories are at an end, yet the roads remain, stretching out into darkness, waiting for their next traveller. Here, at Ancient Britain Myths, we gather these tales not to frighten without purpose, but to keep alive the voices of our land, its legends, its folklore, its hauntings. If you've enjoyed tonight's journey, we invite you to subscribe, to join us again by the fireside, where myths and ghosts are never far from the door. But before you go, a final thought. Tonight or tomorrow or next week, you may find yourself driving down a country lane. The hedgerows will press close, the night will be still. And in the glow of your headlights, you may see someone waiting, a figure by the roadside, watching, silent. And when you pass, will your mirrors show that the road behind you is empty, or will they not?